My name's Chris.
Bonsoir, mon ami. It is me, the Kristie.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Bakeoff is here.
This is the Washing Up
Oui.
podcast. This is the Queen of Accenting. Again, she's won awards.
Indeed, I have.
She has awards, and Bruno Felddyson, Canadian Bakeoff judge, once convinced Kristie that saying "le" after everything made it more French.
That is correct, Le.
No, it's not correct, le. Not le correct at all. So, it's French week if you couldn't work that out. Now, to start this off, before we get into the actual episode, I do just want to say, last week I made a comment about, I thought that they handled Ash's going home not particularly brilliantly.
No.
Can I just say they handled it worse this week? Because they started by saying, you know, Aaron was Star Baker, and it was, no one's going home. No, Ash went home at the very start of the episode.
Yes.
Might want to make mention of that for everybody.
Yeah, just to you know.
She wasn't executed, and we don't talk about her anymore. she's got a cafe coming.
Did they cancel Ash?
Did they cancel Ash?
Cancer culture. You know what this is? Cancer culture gone mad.
Cancel culture gone mad. Oh, it's gone insane is what it's
political
done.
correctness.
Gone mad.
Oh dear.
Anyway, Ash went home for those people who missed it and didn't paid attention to the recap where it said, no one's going home.
Yeah.
Now, we open the episode, I think you've got a challenger. Because you might be the Queen of Accenting.
Oui.
But Aaron appears, and I say appears because I don't speak it, to speak French.
Yeah, but that's different. Speaking French is not having the accent.
Oh, so is one superior to the other, or?
No, they're both as important as the other. I mean, one will get you into France and make you seem like you're a part of France. The other will help you get a coffee and find your way through their transport networks.
Which one is which?
You'll have to find out when we go to France.
You know, again, one of my favorite Paris facts, and there's a lot of Paris facts out there, is I love
the catacombs.
that
They're cool.
Again, I love the fact that they've got underneath the streets, the catacombs that follow the exact same path.
Would you like to know something creepy about Sydney?
Of course.
Okay, so there's two things. So first of all, Town Hall Station. I mean, miscellaneous. No, fuck it. It's Sydney.
Sydney.
So when they excavated Town Hall Station, because it was around the graveyard, because there's a church there, they used all the headstones to pave the road.
Yep.
And they didn't remove all the bodies, so there's still some bodies.
Yep.
In Town Hall Station.
And that's what the New South Wales Mafia would have you believe, anyway.
Yes. These are from the convicts era. That there is Governor Macquarie's friend Josh.
John Josh.
He was a great guy, John Josh. And he wore concrete shoes all the time.
Like, again, that modern baseball cap, they had those back in those days.
Absolutely, you know, that wristwatch that says Seiko. I mean, that's a classic from the Regency era.
It was handcrafted in London.
Yes. You know?
So that's the first fact, is they're still bodies.
Yes. Now, this is the really cool thing. So, when you drive down Parramatta Road between Sydney University and the New South Wales Coroner's Office, underneath the road is the morgue. So every time you drive across the road, you're driving across dead bodies. I won't tell you the other gruesome facts I know about that place, because even I have a limit. But
When did you develop a limit?
Well,
right now, apparently.
Well, no. How can I put it? I like telling you funny, gross stuff. This is just...
Gross.
This is just tragic and fucking triggering, and I'm not going to share that.
So instead, let's talk about the 8 Mile. Oh, sorry, I mean the 8 Mille Fois.
God, the 8 Mile. We just,
You need to lose yourself in the baking.
Just Maggie B whips up a hood. And Maggie spaghetti.
If you had one pud, would you steam it? Anyway, moving on.
Okay, all right.
Any flavour mille-feuille you wanted, 3 layers of pastry, 2 layers of filling, 2 hours. That's what you had. And again, they made a big deal about the number of layers, what mille-feuille is supposed to mean.
I presume 1 million, but, you know, That's
Aaron was like, the best they're going to get to is 762 or something like that. Yeah.
some arbitrary.
Very there were lots of arbitrary numbers tonight. When we get to the technical has some of the most arbitrary numbers in it. 2 hours and 10 minutes. And 10 minutes. Really? Anyway, moving on.
It's the shed of movable math, really. It's like the new Hiseko, what's his name? You know, the guy.
Yes.
The guy who done Ponyo and all that stuff. It's just, the movable math shed. Shed of movable math.
The shed of movable maths. So,
much like the magic faraway tree.
Now,
you'll never know what equation you'll end up at.
We get a significant portion. Look, I'm going to refer to the first challenge in particular as Hoda Vision. Because Hoda... I'm going to go with Hoda Vision because Hoda Vision is not quite as catchy. But it's Hoda, obviously. But Hoda Vision. And the reason it's Hoda Vision is because she features no less than, I think it's 7 or 8, I've got it counted, specific cutaways
and this is
that don't involve her.
And this is just in the signature. This
in
is not...
the signature, we're talking about the rest of the episode.
It did feel Hoda heavy.
They just keep going back, and it's like she's not even saying anything important. They just cut back. Like at one point, we'll talk about it in a moment. We get the puff pastries being chilled, and then someone hits something, and then they turn around and get what was Hoda's take on that?
Who was hitting something? Well, that was easy. That's Ella.
Yeah.
She's just there bashing pastry.
So Jaywin, I loved because they cut to Jaywin, and they're like, he's like, patience is a virtue that I do not have, and I feel you, Jaywin.
Yes, so do I. You know,
because this idea of making pastry. Now just as well as I do. Friend of the show.
Yes.
Robert Harwood spends all of his time trying to tell me that making puff pastry is easy and I really should do it. And my response is, who else makes good puff pastry? Pampers make amazing puff pastry. You can pull it out of sheets. Borg's is good. Borg's is a vegetarian option if you want that.
Vegan even.
Vegan option, that's right, because yes, you can do it for a vegan option, you're right. But they make great puff pastry, and you know how much effort I put into that?
Going to the shops.
Yeah, going to the shops and they strip it out of the packet.
Yeah, sometimes you even just bloody order it.
Exactly, it
comes
turns up
to your
at the door. Like, so again, as long as you can order pastry, I'm not making it.
What a bloody, time to be alive where you get puff pastry
delivered to the door. This is what they couldn't foresee in the Dark Ages.
So, medieval peasants sitting there, just one random... I wonder if it came to Nostradamus, though. Just one of his predictions. There's the helicopter.
Yeah, all of those predictions, about, the twins will fall, which is a fake one, obviously,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're all fake because it's Nostradamus anyway, but he's, blah, 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 blah. There's like, pastry delivered to the door the halcyon days will rise once more. And it's like, oh my God, he predicted puff pastry delivery. That's exactly what Nostradamus was there for.
Yes.
Now we cut to Hoda. Now this time it's a legitimate reason to cut to Hoda, which is she's talking about making her banoffee pie.
I had a tear up at that
did.
point. Not because I'm like, banoffee pie's terrible. My mum got into making banoffee pies for my older sister towards probably the last 5 years of her life. And every time there was a fucking family gathering, she's like, I bought Michelle the banoffee pie. And so, just randomly, I start crying. Chris looks at me, he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, made banoffee pie for Michelle?
Yeah, I'm like, okay. Because I knew nothing of that. So it's like, okay. Sure. What I was getting a bit emotional over is the weirdness that was Matt Moran, who came up and felt the need to announce to Hoda that he makes a pretty mean banoffee pie himself. Matt, you run Aria. I should fucking well hope so.
I would say
she's an amateur baker in a competition. You're one of Australia's premier chefs. Why are you bragging about being able to make a banoffee pie?
I mean, if he was going, I've done a bit of watercolour myself and going to enter something in the Archibald, that's different. Because you're not known for being an artist, Matt. A little, I've built a Chevrolet, whatever it is, from scratch, got all the parts myself, travelled. Beautiful, did not know you were into cars.
Meanwhile,
making a banoffee pie.
Matt bragging about, I make a pretty mean banoffee pie myself.
I mean,
you're a chef.
Matt, my mum made a mean banoffee pie, and this is the woman who blew chickens. This is not a benchmark. This is not going, you know what I did? I did an Il Tempano or whatever the fuck that
what he should
crazy
have,
ass
what Hoda should have done back was say,
what would be the most difficult thing in the world? That needs technique to create.
Oh, God.
Peking duck. I'm just trying to think of something that's long and
That's just effort. That's arduous. I'd go with that. That's a pretty good one. But what I thought was, if I was Hoda...
What's the actual technical need? Peking duck.
If I was Hoda, what I would have done is gone, yes, Matt, but this is a mille foie. It's not a normal banoffee pie. So, you haven't made this. So step back.
Yeah. Back off, buddy.
Back off, Moran.
Back off, my baldy buddy.
Now,
man down, Moran.
At this point, we cut to Ella, who is beating up her pastry. Now, they cut back to Hoda, just for her to look over her shoulder and go, what are you doing? And then we cut back. We didn't need that. Anyway, we cut back to Ella.
Very clear what Ella was doing. She's just getting out some stress.
Because she's warming up. Because we all know that it's very important that you get all of the stress and anxiety out before your big moment. And your big moment, of course, being your audition for Play School. And
she had to get all of her anger out so she could just be pure joy.
Exactly.
Pure joy.
I imagine just before they go on air at Play School, they go and beat someone up for 5 minutes.
Because I don't know if you've noticed over the past 6 weeks, and I'm sure you'd have to be, I don't know, not watching this show to have not picked it up. Ella is very child focused.
Very child
about her children and bringing joy and fun, turning mille foie into dinosaurs. It is absolutely an audition for Play School.
100%. This is a long game. She's not so much in this for a cake plate. She's in it to stand where Benita once stood.
She wants to be the new Rue from Home and Away who ended up there. What's her name? Justine Clark. Rue. She wants to go and hang with Big Ted. And Jemima.
Especially Jemima.
Oh, Jemima
Who doesn't
was
want
my
to
favourite.
Hamble. Where's Hamble?
Where's Hamble these
We've
days?
had a Hamble rant on this podcast before.
I know. Bring back Hamble.
Look, no baking podcast on earth gives you better Hamble coverage than the washing up. I'd like to put that out there.
Because this now, it makes perfect sense why she did that macaron tower. She's trying to create the new rocket clock. Like a flower clock, rocket clock, and now a macaron clock.
Oh, that would have been fantastic.
And it has a little French president at the top. Some coconut-based biscuits
the
down
bottom. Every mispronunciation you can think of. So she was beating up the page, but then she starts the audition. Lime, thyme, and kiwi are sauruses. Now, I am also convinced that Ella starts from a name and works backwards.
Because she's working on a children's book at the same time.
Oh, completely.
It's Play School, children's book, stardom. We saw how that went for everyone. Dan Sultan did it.
Exactly. White chocolate mascarpone cream and lime and thyme curd. Also, I forgot to mention with Hoda just quickly, she announced to Matt Moran that she was making Matt's recipe for Matt's recipe for dolce de leche.
So if it fails, it's his problem. It's his fault.
Well, it did. But then he just said that it tasted really good. So
is that was that his dolce de leche? That's what happens?
Yeah, I mean, he said it was runny. She said that it was rustic, and he went, no, it's not.
You know how my mum made it? She put either tin carnation in boiled water, or she just opened up a bloody hell. Itself.
So we show everybody chilling the puff pastry.
Yes.
And we cut to that long enough to cut back to Hoda.
Puff pastry and chill.
But we cut back to Hoda long enough for Hayden to start singing. And at once Hayden starts singing because he's stirring raspberry Kool-Aid, and that's what you do.
Yeah.
It's Kool-Aid, I know, but when he's singing it, I'm thinking it's raspberry Kool-Aid.
It's probably why we didn't see much of Hayden, because he was probably singing that.
Well, yeah, and they can't do that. Royalties! We don't own the royalties! So...
Is Prince 200 years, from publishing? No, not yet.
Oh, not even close. No. Hayden announced very loudly...
Sing anything by Jane Austen, though.
Sing Jane Austen to 8 Mile. There you go. Done. We cut back to Hayden, and Hayden talks about the fact that he actually feels like he's on time this week. Mark those words. Because no. He was worried about the pastry, and he was making hazelnut with a raspberry coulis. Mm-hmm. We cut to Jaywin. Now, there's a lot of conversation around pushing this week. And they keep telling Hoda that she's pushing herself and keep telling Carmel that she's not, which is a ridiculous narrative. You want to know who's pushing themselves?
Who?
The person who used salted duck egg for creme pat. Jaywin.
Yes. Wasn't that amazing?
Like, you've got. Oh, you're really pushing yourself, Hoda, and what she's making is good, but not what I'd call out of the box.
Like I said, my mum can make it.
And they're going, Carmel, you're not pushing yourself, and I would argue it's very similar to what
Hoda was doing.
Hoda's
She was doing tiramisu in the milfoil.
Jaywin's,
I'm here for it.
Jaywin's making salted duck egg creme pat, pumpkin mousse, and fish sauce caramel.
Like none of that. If you list what would you use these ingredients for, I'm thinking like a Thai pumpkin curry of some description, like one of those stir fry. Oh, there's a really good stir fry pumpkin. Oh, now I'm just hungry. Alright, note to self.
It's why we eat normally before we do this.
I know, because I'm
I'm getting hungry.
It's pretty late to not be eating, but we'll get there. But he's putting that all into a mille-feuille, and it's going to be sweet, not a savoury profile. Like, that is pretty fucking awesome.
This is the thing, because Claire was like, oh, I'm a bit worried about that fish sauce caramel. And I'm like, no, it's salty. It's just another way to do salted caramel, as Jaywin said. It's 100% right. And what I loved about this bit was where he said, older people like Matt and Maggie might not enjoy it, to which you got the cutback of Claire looking over at the camera and going, can I just confirm that you got him calling Matt Moran old? And the camera nodded, which I thought was absolutely brilliant.
This is the highlight of the whole series, is Claire's camera.
Claire aside to camera is, look, we haven't announced where or when the Verges are taking place yet, but Claire Hooper to camera is a very big front runner for a lot of awards.
Absolutely.
I think the committee's going to look very fondly on that.
Well, you are the committee.
Yeah,
so.
I can tell you, the committee looks very fondly on that. Then we come back to Nerman, who's making mille-feuille that's defying gravity.
It's like Elphaba.
Yeah, Nerman's mille-feuille is defying
Probably
gravity.
why they also couldn't cut to Hamish, because he was
probably singing it. So Hayden.
Hamish, Hayden. Look at me.
We'll come back to Andy. We'll come back to Andy in a minute. Aaron.
Oh God, Hamish and Andy. Aaron and Hayden, they're out there.
Same thing.
What was that thing that they used to do? It was in the very early days, and they used to do that sport where they shadow people, like behind them.
Yes.
It was ghosting.
Ghosting, yes.
Which
different meaning now.
Different meaning now.
I also thought he then called them sideways mille-feuille, and all I could think of was about boozy weekends. Such a good film, Sideways. Anyway,
sideways.
It goes sideways. Now, what I love though, he did know his audience, because first of all, chocolate cremo, honey mascarpone, that's fine, and then he turned around and said, "I'm taking this a bit burnt," because they like their things burnt. And yes, they do. Yeah. And he also followed that up by putting a piece of fig on top. Very important for Maggie Beer.
Yes, absolutely. And you've got it. And knowing, okay, so figs, right next to the fucking Vergès fields is a whole fig orchard. Like, just figs everywhere. But burning it, of course, because as we know, for half a year, Maggie has the use of a fucking fire dragon before it changes to
the ice dragon, exactly.
Now, it's fire dragon season, as we know.
Excited.
We're coming up to fire dragon season, 21st of March, so we're only a few weeks away. Great changeover.
Circle your calendars.
And that's when everything's going to be burnt. And I'm sure this was fire dragon season. So he's like, she's going to be missing home. I'll bring a bit of the fire dragon into the shed. Exactly.
And I mean, look, in worst case scenario, if Maggie doesn't like what you've baked, the fig will distract her. So... they then cut to Aaron, who was talking about he's trying not to lose the layers, but he's being very careful and very delicate. Cut to Ella, who's in a break in her audition, and she's just beating the living shit out of this. She's just thumping it with an inch of its life.
I'm assuming that is exactly what like Play School and other children's show people do, like the Wiggles, right? Between being happy and smiley and stuff, to get out some things before that, they're just going like, UFC in a corner. They have like a fucking cage
Dorothy
match.
the dinosaur's actually got an arm in a sling. Wouldn't tap out in an armbar.
Henry the Octopus, 8 blades.
Yes. Do you know how hard it is to get out of a chokehold from Henry the fucking Octopus? You get one off, there's another one going around. It's impossible to break out of
Captain Feathersword comes in with an apple sword.
He's got fucking weapons. I mean, how can you win?
He's like, it's not feather time, bitches, and pulls out his saber.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Hoda number 5. We cut back to Hoda. By the way, the reason why I make another reference to this is because we still don't officially know what Aaron is making yet, and who knows if Carmel exists. But we're back at Hoda's bench again, and that's an important thing.
Yep.
She then becomes the official Bakeoff narrator because they do a good 45 seconds to a minute of showing everyone else inside the shed while she talks randomly about how you make pastry. And I'm like, when did Claire and Mel lose their jobs to Hoda?
Well, obviously they were supporting Ella with her play school audition because, you know, there's Claire pretending to be Big Ted and Mel's got fucking like Jemima down pat. Like she had like the cool kind of...
That coat, by the way.
Oh my God. Her
That
whole
denim.
ensemble.
Oh yeah, that was a win.
Like the black pants, the red stripe down the side.
Works.
Oh, gorge.
Absolutely
Gorge.
spectacular. But then we found out that Carmel existed.
Oh.
And she was making tiramisu. Because, yeah.
She's Italiano.
And what I love about this, first of all, she was using coffee cream and Kahlua. Yes. Secondly, I love that she's like, it's boozy, which is what it's supposed to be. And then she stops, looks at the camera and goes, you don't drive after eating my tiramisu.
Her and my mum went to the same cooking school.
A trifle.
Between
And the pudding.
Between Mum's fucking pudding and Carmel's tiramisu, you're out for the rest. Like you wake up 2 days after New Year's going, what the fuck happened?
For those who haven't heard the story about Alice's pudding, how long did it soak?
Probably from before Halloween, so October, to December. And usually a couple of days before is when she'd actually make the pudding. And seriously, you could just get drunk off the fumes. Like, I don't know how my dad got to work at those times. Because, yeah, it was boozy. So,
And then we cut to Aaron, who was making baklava.
Whoa!
Yeah, I know.
We found out what he's making?
Yeah, we did.
Jesus.
And what I loved was he said that, I looked at Milfire and I thought the Milfire is just baklava that came from money. And that is one of the best lines I think I've ever heard.
So instead of calling it Milfire, we call it bougie baklava.
Bougie baklava. It's not Milfire, it's bougie baklava. Then they comment on the fact that he seems to have been borrowing some of Nerman's product for a moustache off. And he was never going to win. But he can only try.
I know.
But they're looking for similar looks because, of course, that's what the producers of How Golden's My Sponge would really like.
Look, I really feel that everyone that Nerman just comes into contact with that has facial hair.
Even if they don't, they suddenly develop
they just suddenly, have a little wax curl going at the end. Just,
How can you not?
If you look at Hoda very closely, just on the ends of her hair, just little flicks of wax curls.
Hoda's got curls tweaking up. It's hilarious.
You should see what he did to Coco and Ponchi.
Oh,
Jesus
God.
Christ.
Okay.
Tails.
Speaking of which, yeah. What's up, Carmel?
What's up, indeed?
So we need to do our What's Up, Carmel for today.
Yeah,
now,
people want to know. They're not here for the bakes. They're here for the bunnies.
They're here for the bunnies. So before we do that, matters arising from the last meeting.
Yes.
I asked about sabotage. Obviously, we said, "Do you know that Coco and Ponchi sabotaging you?" And the answer was, "Funny you should mention sabotage. It's making sense now. All my Almond Essence bottle labelling was actually vanilla essence inside. Lucky I smelled it before I used it. Then nearly every week afterwards, there was an ingredient missing from my bench. Coincidence? I think not. For the record, Coco and Ponchi deny any involvement."
What is that? They just want their mum
Rubbish.
Home.
Absolute rubbish.
Are they doing a bit of penny and brain action, just instead of trying to help Gadget,
they're trying to hurt Gadget.
They're
trying to hurt Gadget. Don't hurt Gadget.
Don't.
Meanwhile, the What's Up Carmel this week is, what is a bunny-appropriate alcohol for a tiramisu mille-fois?
I don't think not even Peter. I think just normal people would be like, you shouldn't booze up bunnies.
You shouldn't. However, if you were going to, what sort of booze profile is Coco and what sort of booze profile is Ponchi?
Ponchi, yeah.
I think we need to know. Again, obviously don't booze up the bunnies, but if you were going to and you were like, which sort of alcohol are they? Which one of them's a Bacardi Breezer? Which one of them's a Rusky? We need to know.
Do they even make Ruskies anymore?
They do.
Oh, wow.
They really do.
Oh.
You can't be over the age of 19 and drink one, but they do make them.
I know. I think I'd go back to being 19 if I drank one.
Possibly. So anyway, that's What's Up, Carmel? So let's move on. And we move on, of course, to them pulling all their puff pastry out. Now, Hayden's looks slightly more puffed than everyone else's. It was weird.
Look, I think we have to understand, right? Hayden thinks he's on time. I think he feels he's done a deal with Kronos. Like, he's just gone to the god of time and gone, you know what? I am sick of your shit at my bench. We are going to do this properly. You are not going to fuck with time with me. I've made enough libations and offerings to you in song, and now it's time to just let me bake. But no, Kronos went, fuck you. I am like Zeus, fucking Poseidon and Odysseus. This shit's going down.
I'm going to kick you onto every rock I can find.
Yes. You want to get home to Ithaca? Not today, my
Now,
friend.
we need to move past Greek mythology.
Why?
Because we cut back to Hoda's bench. And she's making the dolce de leche, and it has not set.
That's Roman mythology because it's dolce de leche.
And then we move on anyway because we go back to Ella. Because Ella is now back at her audition. And this time she's at the crafts table. And what has she done? Well, she's taken the seeds out of the kiwi fruit to make little eyes for the top of the dinosaurs.
Oh, this is wonderful. This was so reminiscent of those times where there'd be someone on play school and they'd have some scissors and they'd tell you no. You can make sure you have an adult to help you with this part, kid. And they'd like cut a cup and like a paper plate, and suddenly you've got a rocket.
Exactly. It's amazing.
Ready to go. Your own little rocket. Ready
They look really cool.
Wear at the rocket ship.
They did look really cool. And I love that Nerman was sort of really laying into a bunch of different things here too, because he's like, he burnt a bit of his pastry, and he goes, we call the burnt bit flavour. It's flavour. And I'm like, it's also burnt, Nerman.
We're aware of what's that browning stuff where you, the something effect? The Maillard
effect, yeah.
Yeah.
That thing,
right? That everyone's yelling at the podcast now, going, "Oh my god, it's this!"
We haven't eaten. Shut up.
I know sugars are too fucking low for this.
It's too low, Reese.
So I think there's a point where
the Maillard effect kicks in, and it's not that,
and it's not that, and it goes beyond that. It becomes the charcoal effect.
I love Aaron.
It becomes we're resorting back to carbon effect.
I love when they come back to Aaron. He goes, we've got layers, we've got depth, we've got character growth, we've got everything you could ever possibly want. And then you cut to Hayden, who finally acknowledges that he might be a little bit concerned with time. No shit.
Can't win against Kronos.
So Carmel finished everything, and at this point we got one of the greatest things I've ever seen in a Bakeoff shed. Carmel finishes and celebrates. How does she celebrate? She takes the piping bag and just starts piping into the mouth.
But what's even funnier at this point is, so she starts, and then they start doing the countdown, and it's inferred that for the whole 10 seconds
She kept doing it.
she is just chugging that stuff down. Like, she
I
is
like
like
the idea.
not letting the Kahlua go, just gonna...
I like that there's a producer in the ear of the cameraman going, chug, 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 chug. So...
I like it when it's like 2-1, she just slams it down and she goes, another!
So to finish it off, obviously, she starts chugging from the piping bag. We cut back to Hoda for no reason. We then do the time call. We cut back to Hoda again for no reason. We then cut back to Nerman, whose goat cheese has not set. He is not doing well in this challenge.
No.
We then go back to Hoda again because she has to describe how she's plating and going, oh, I realise my plating's too small. She's got a very long board full of milfoil. It'll be fine. We then go back to Ella, who by this point has designed an entire tropical scene. There's trees, there's sand, there's levels. Like, it's gone from being small to being, like, again, it would be beneath the clock.
It would, absolutely. I was just thinking that, like, this is the thing, but this is what annoyed me about the flower clock, right? Is like the rocket clock, you got to reveal. It was like watching Drag Race, like watching someone like whip their wig off and you see something new. The flower clock, there was none of that. It was just like, oh,
it's a flower.
It's a flower, and you can clearly see what's underneath. There's no reveal. They're just waiting for it to turn around the correct way. I already know what the book's going to be. Exactly. I already know you're going to read me, I don't know, fucking Spot goes to school because there's a dog that looks like Spot and some books and an
going
apple.
to school. Exactly.
He's going to fucking school.
Where else is he going? And they finish off the challenge.
To the Apple Book Library.
So we finish off and we cut to Hayden, who looks at the camera and goes, they wanted 8, they get 5 because they didn't get the other ones finished. It's like,
damn you, Kronos.
Hayden, you spent all this time bragging about your time management and then you're like, no.
No.
So the judging. They go to Hayden and they go...
But you don't understand, he is managing time, but it's very different time. And he's also battling a god of time. So you need to take that into account. He is managing it because the rest of the earth hasn't been consumed by that chaos.
They went to Hayden and they said, was this a time issue? And he's like, I'd like to say it was a time issue because I think this is possibly my best creme pat ever. And I'm like, so is it a time issue?
Or is this the first creme pat you've ever made?
Well, that was... Maggie seemed to infer that at one point. Like, Maggie, when they cut to Maggie later on, Maggie's comment was, I feel like Hayden hasn't made a lot of this in his life. And I'm like, that's a bold statement to make at the end of one of these challenges, Maggie. They said the creme pat was good, but the pastry just didn't work. Aaron, they said the layers were impressive, good crunch, great pastry, and his pistachio is very good.
And as well as his mustachio.
Oh, mustachio. Nerman, Maggie called it a toasted sandwich, which is not what you want in a mille-feuille. They did say that the pastry itself was amazing, but they said there was no real filling in it because he went sideways. And again, I thought the sideways was
bold,
pointless. You've gone bold. I'm going pointless, and I thought it actually hurt him. And they said that too. They said if you hadn't gone sideways, you could have put more filling in the middle of it there. But the fig distracted Maggie. She's like, I love the fig. And we're like, of course you do, Maggie. It's you.
It's a fig.
It's the whole point. She walks away. Nerman goes, my job is done. Carmel, they said the layers were good. Maggie wanted more of a coffee hit. But Matt said he liked the pastry and the flavour, but wanted more coffee.
Okay. I have a feeling, right, that for a normal human being, there was enough coffee in there. I just think that perhaps Maggie and Matt are a bit like you, my love, who just adore coffee, right? And unless it is, I don't know, as black as the fucking, what's that new black paint they've made that's like the blackest black? Unless it's coffee that has been roasted to the point of becoming a new bloody element.
See, I just love Turkish coffee because Turkish coffee, you can stand the spoon up in that thing.
That's what I mean. Perhaps they're just that big a coffee connoisseurs that anything less of it, a triple espresso, it's just...
It tastes like Nescafe Blend 43. And as I always say, 43 goes, that's the one they settled on. Jaywin. Maggie sounded shocked that she thought Jaywin's was good. She tasted it, but it's good. And they're like, no need to sound so shocked, Maggie. She's I didn't mean it like that, but that's exactly how it sounded.
I'm sure she's had fish sauce caramel.
Yeah, of course she has. They said it was rich and unusual, but good. They did say he needed a little bit more bake on his pastry. They cut to Hoda. This time again, it's legitimate because they've got to judge her too.
Okay. This is...
She tries to tell them that she's going for the rustic look on the dolce de leche, but Matt goes no. They said the flavour was good. It wasn't as sweet as expected. Ella. Now, at this point, Matt and Maggie arrive on the play school set and start to play with the dinosaurs a little bit.
Which window did they look through?
The round window. But the layers were good, the acidity of the lime and the kiwi were great, and it was very well balanced. I did also point out at this point in time when they cut to Hayden for his take, and Hayden was very brutally honest all the way through. He goes, no, this wasn't very good. I need to be much better in the next couple of challenges. His orange shirt.
Yes.
He was channeling Uncle Roger. It was an orange polo. It was much more Haya than Fuyo. And again, no, I didn't. I was looking to see if there was a phone case.
Oh, yep.
On the belt buckle. I was looking to see if he was wearing shorts. At no point did he put his leg up either. So no. The technical. It's Matt's, and it's the brioche tête. And there 7 of them, and it was go for gold. Pull no punches, and I do like a bald head. Now, what was weird about the technical was they explained the rules of the technical again in great detail. Mm-hmm. I couldn't quite work it out. They explained that they leave some of the things out. They're like, the judges will be judge this blind. They'll be leaving the shed shortly. I'm like, why are we resetting the rules? Are we doing this like there's brand new viewers coming in at week 6?
Yeah, what you could do is reinstate the rules of no one talking to each other.
That would be handy, because guess what the first thing they did was?
What?
Cut to people talking. So we open up with that when they send them off, they were like, it's all about pain. No, sorry, pan. I meant pan. Bread. And this is where we got the 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is oddly specific. I loved everybody trying to pronounce it. You know, you had tete from Carmel, followed by cutting to Aaron, who just calls it a brioche of head.
Look,
what does everybody want? A brioche of head.
Look, I feel that this was the French having a go at the English, or some English person who was trying to show that, no, it's not a boob. This is not a nipple. I didn't call it a brioche tit. I called it a brioche tete. It's like, it's got a little head on it.
They walked away going, we've got them eating boobs.
That's how they presented in Buckingham Palace. I wonder if we can find out. I'll just text the Queen. I've got her number now.
This is why Ella came first in the technical.
Yes.
She's making boobs. She's good at this. This is what she can do. You text the Queen. We'll find out.
Hello!
Oh, God!
Hello!
You Madge!
Hello, everybody!
Where the hell did you come from?
Oh, you know, Kristie just texted the Madge phone, and here I am.
That was really quick.
No, Her Majesty! Yes. Look, Kristie is onto something, because it was one of my favourite corgis' birthday, little William Welshie. It was his birthday.
Hey, Madge, can you hang up?
Yes, it's just William calling me. He wants to show me some baby pictures. Oh, not again. I know it's my heir. You're just waiting for me to die. All of you want me to fuck right off so you can just take right over. Well, not today. Not today. I'm going to tell you about my titty bread, okay? So there I was, and it was just before I was to be married, right? And I've gone to my chef, look, I want a little something raunchy, you know? No, I'm not the queen yet, but I will be soon. And I just want a little bit of, you know, what it's like to be an average hen on her night. Anyway, my lovely papa, who was dead and was a ghost, was he? I can't remember. Things are just... Anyway, my mother come down, she's like, Elizabeth, what are you doing? These bread things that the chef is making for you look like bosoms. You can't serve that. There'll be Lady L'Oreal there, and we all know how fucking bitchy she can be. And then she'll just say that you're a smutty, slutty queen and slut shame you, which is perfectly okay in these days, but in the future it won't be. And we'll just make a big scandal of it. It'll go all over Hello Magazine. And we'll never hear the end of it until that little Lady Diana comes along. Anyway, you can't serve booby bread. And I said to my mother, look, mother, it's not breaded tit there. That's an incorrect spelling. It's breaded tet. It's breaded tet. It's got a little head on it. See? It's like a little person, just a little person that resembles a boob. But not a boob. It's a head. And my mother was appeased. And when Lady Laura came along, we were able to remind her that this is a French thing. It's fancy. It's not a booby. Get your mind out of the gutter. We made her feel naughty, didn't we? Oh, yes. But, you know, me and Anne, we went off later and really did the thing. Went to a show where they did the full Monty, if you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean, Her Majesty.
Yes. So anyway, that's the story of breaded tit, a.k.a. breaded tat. Now, yes, while it was also my corgi's birthday, I just brought that up because I really miss him and I need to go use my Ouija board because I think Phil, my lovely dead husband, was that his name? Who the fuck knows these days? He'll be bringing him along so we can actually talk. Anyway, I've got to go. Better go, tell the grandkids how pretty their offspring look. Queen out!
Bye, Madge!
Goodbye!
How the hell do you get your Madge here this quickly?
She's got a portal, apparently, to our house.
Do you know how scary it is to have a queen have a portal to your house? Anyway,
you should have been there the day she popped up when I was on the loo. That's embarrassing.
That's worrying.
Yeah.
So you had to live in the east until it quadrupled in size. Now Hoda wasn't quite sure how long to keep this in the drawer.
I'll tell you how long, Hoda. Till it quadrupled in size.
This is the second week. Who was it last week who did that?
Hoda.
Was it Hoda again?
I'm sure it was Hoda.
Somebody couldn't work out the time. I don't know how long to do it. It told you in the recipe exactly.
It was golden. Remember, it was golden.
Golden. When do you take it out? When it's golden. So they cut to Matt, who explains it. Now, the bread included goat's curd and macerated grapes. Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to ask the question...
Or as he called them, accoutrement.
Yeah, accoutrement. God, he used that word a lot.
Someone had his one French word.
Yeah, one word, and my word didn't use it. But before I ask the question, how the hell they didn't laugh when Maggie said it's so difficult getting that little knob on top? I don't quite know how neither of them tittered, but they didn't. But Maggie B went, it's so difficult getting that little knob on top, and no one laughed. Now, is this bake, and this is my problem with this bake, is it about the brioche? Or is it about the accoutrement? Because Matt seemed really focused on the goat's cheese and really focused on the macerated berries and macerated grapes, and not really that worried about the bread.
Look, you're saying macerated grapes a lot, and that's just making me think of all me plums.
As Jaywood pointed out, he goes, "It's like they're raisins." No, that's dried out ones.
Look, it is supposed to be about the bakes, and when we saw everyone baking, that's what the focus was on. There was a little bit of showing of, the making of the cheese mostly. I didn't really see much grape action.
No.
But when we came to the judging, it was a very different story.
It was all over it. And I was like, Matt actually said that it's very difficult to eat this brioche without having the accoutrement with it. So why did you make them bake it?
The Queen obviously just wanted some booby bread.
She didn't need the accoutrement that went with it.
She wasn't worried about the accoutrement.
No.
And if she did, then I assume it was fucking, 5-star fucking accoutrement. It was like bim bim bap. Is that
exactly
just like fucking Korean accoutrement everywhere?
So we cut back to the shed so they can start baking.
No, that's not the banchan. That's the word.
So we cut back. Of. So we cut back, obviously, in there, and
white. I'm sorry, everyone.
And the first thing we see is everyone helping each other again. They're all talking about how they live in the East. Now, what I love was Mel turns around and goes, "Now the leaven has been activated." And I'm like, that sounds like something out of like an end of world movie. The leaven is activated.
Release the leaven, for it is now activated. And I will unleash leaven on the world.
But good news. We decided that what we were going to do is we were going to balance out this evil monster of the leaven by cutting instead to Ella's audition reel. So what we got from Ella's audition was I was wondering how she was going to work play school into this bake.
Yeah, because it's a boob.
Especially how you're going to work play school into a boob.
With and also macerated grapes.
It's a set recipe. Yeah. It's a serious recipe. She threw her dough at the mixer blade while it was spinning around to see when she could get away from the mixer blade and made a game of it.
Now, children, we're going to be playing with some dangerous gadgets. Let's see what we can do.
Let's turn the mixer on to high.
Is she trying to do an anti-play school? She's trying to do how they've now got those dirty play preschools or wild play preschools? Is this the whole thing?
Maybe.
She's trying to she's like, play school
wild
is too
play
safe.
School.
Wild play school.
Wild play school.
Risky play school.
I like wild play school. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
wild. Anyway, at this point in time, we cut back to Claire, who was simply using Nerman's mixer to work her shoulder blades out. Now, I'm going to be honest here.
Yeah.
And, obviously we love a good sponsor, and congratulations, obviously, to Smeg for being a wonderful sponsor and helping everybody out. But is it really a good indication of the Smeg mixer that it bounces so much that you can use it to fix a shoulder?
I don't think it's a Smeg mixer thing. I think any mixer at a certain point, when it's at that high speed, dealing with a hard dough, will bounce. Surely that's just physics.
I think we got away with that. Anyway, they then cut to Ella, who asks a question that's been asked now for a very long time, which is, can you over whip?
Well, can you over nay-nay?
I think the bigger question is, can you over nay-nay personally?
Yeah.
Because we can watch them whip, then watch them nay-nay.
And they're going to be in balance.
I don't think you'll overdo the whip, but you can possibly go too far on the nay-nay. Yeah, and if you go too far on the nay-nay, it's a no-no.
Because there's a definite end to the whip. Because you're like, now watch me whip, now watch me nay-nay. And there's a pause. Now watch me whip, Like, you can just...
That pause can go forever.
Yeah.
And again, no on the no.
Yeah.
So we then got Mel, who was mastering the art of stealing food in the time of COVID. Because she goes up to Carmel and she's like, what does the goat shoot? Do you want some? Can I have some? And she goes, of course, I've got extra. And meanwhile, I can hear the occupational health and safety people in the background going, no, you really can't. You really cannot. And Mel's just going, yeah, okay.
All right, I got a gadget thing called spoon.
Now we all wait, because there was a lot of waiting around in this one.
Yes.
Lots of resting, lots of baking, and lots of resting, and lots of baking. In the meantime, Hayden was calculating the exact percentage of yeast in rest.
This is the problem, Hayden. Like...
Have a cup of tea.
Have a cup of tea.
No one had a cuppa.
No, like, this is a fucking travesty. Is tea not allowed in the shed now because of some crazy COVID rule?
No, because they did it early on.
Political correctness gone mad.
Ash made a cup of tea in week 1.
Well, what happened?
Did she take the tea with her?
Did she drink all... She brought the tea? Is that what... Like, you got a
Possibly.
BYO tea?
Possibly.
People just forgetting their tea.
Maybe.
Or spilling the tea.
Then we rolled balls.
And then go RuPaul on it.
Then we rolled balls. I liked Aaron making eye contact while he rolled balls. and then in a phrase that I never thought I'd say, we create a hole for the knob.
Well, where else are you going to put your knob?
You shouldn't have to create the hole for the... Anyway. Norman then called them nipples to Ella. She's like, they are nipples. But she said it again in such a way like she was still auditioning for play school. They are nipples.
Because she wants to make it wild. And by that, we mean, like, realistic, giving kids real skills. I mean, all well and good to have fantasy play of, like, here I've stuck some paper plates to this cardboard box and now it's a car. Broom, broom, broom. Where you could just go, okay, children, this is a labia. These are nipples. This is a penis. These are testicles.
The penises are going to come up in the showstopper. Anyway.
Exactly. She's going to do it all through bakes. So it's, it's interesting and fun. And the children can bake it at home.
And my notes say, and I quote them directly here, in we go, out we come. That was it. And we finished off by Hayden making up for the shortfall in the first challenge by making 1 extra in this one. Mm-hmm. And then everyone trying to pull everything out of the tins, except for Aaron, who couldn't quite get it all done in time, and so left 2 of them in the pans.
Oh, he spent too much time making eye contact and rolling balls.
I love that everyone was helping everybody else pull them out of the pans. And I say love that incorrectly. It's a technical, leave it alone. Anyway.
Can't do it yourself?
Don't do it. Exactly.
Don't do it.
So the judging. Hayden, they said it wasn't as golden, but the balls on top looked good. God, there was so much innuendo they left on the table.
Because not only that, okay, so there were crucial points. Like, there was a moment when, like, Jaywins yelled out, egg wash to Hayden. And then, like...
Yeah, that was annoying.
Like, don't help each other. Stop it.
No, exactly.
Be mean. Anti-Bakeoff.
Anti-Bakeoff in the technical.
To be real Bakeoff, you have to be anti-Bakeoff. It's like you can't tolerate intolerance, which makes you intolerant. But there's certain things you can't tolerate. There's certain things you can't bake off.
So anyway, they said they had good goat's cheese, but very dry grapes. But a good bake overall. Notice the amount of critique there on the bread. Aaron, great balls on top again. Why still 2 in moulds? Very buttery, very nice. Hoda, they said they were all uniform, but they weren't proved to the same level as the others. So they were uniform, but underproved. They did say that they had a good bake, and they said that the sides were both good. Carmel, they commented on the fact that they were bigger than the other ones, and they pointed to Hoda's as an example, but they just told us that Hoda's were underproved.
Exactly. So why don't they point to someone's...
So they pointed,
like Aaron's,
they pointed to Carmel and said, well, they're much bigger than those. Well, of course they are. Hers were underproved.
Yeah.
Right? They did say they were heavier too and a bit denser, but the way it was explained
it was confusing.
Yeah. The cheese was too whipped, apparently, and that, of course, is the big failing with her brioche.
She didn't get enough nay in there.
She had good brioche, though. Counted for nothing when they judged it. Jaywin, nice prove, but the shape wasn't as good. They said the cheese and the grapes were both good. Nerman, they said good colour, good prove, good shape, good sides. And Ella's looked damn fine. Maggie went a step further and called it a lightness of being.
Jeez, existential, like...
That got weird funny.
I'd like a bake that just, gave me an enlightenment.
Yes, indeed. It's what I think of when I think of bakes. So Carmel came 7th.
The brioche to enlightenment.
Carmel came 7th. Jaywin came 6th.
If only the Buddhist monks had discovered brioche instead of like meditating.
Enlightenment, easy. Hoda was 5th. 4th was Hayden. 3rd was Aaron. 2nd was Nerman. And 1st was Ella.
Excellent.
Now, Carmel was 7th because they didn't like her whipped cheese.
That doesn't make sense. I mean, Hoda's was underproven.
So, Hoda's was underproved. And Jaywin's didn't have the right shape.
Yeah.
And Carmel
Which meant he didn't shape the dough properly because you have to shape
the proof on his was good, but the shaping was wrong. And Matt even mentioned that the shaping was a pressure point in the bread.
Yeah.
And then Carmel came 7th for cheese that wasn't right, because how can you have it without accoutrement? Well, if you can't have it without accoutrement, don't put it on the fucking plate. Simple. I have taken to ignoring the table when they cut to the table and saying who's in trouble and who's doing well.
Yeah.
Because the last couple of weeks hasn't made much sense.
It's confusing at the moment. I don't know what's going on.
They said that Hayden and Carmel...
You know what we need? We need another cut to Hoda to explain it.
Yeah, she could have helped us. They did say that Hayden and Carmel were the two that were in trouble, but there was the start of the... Carmel's such a good baker, but she just needs to push herself and test herself. She was star baker the other fucking week.
It doesn't make
So this
sense.
is the weird thing. There's a narrative going around that Carmel doesn't push. And look, we'll get to her showstopper in a minute, and there were flaws all the way through Carmel's showstopper. Not going to hide that. There were definite flaws all the way through it. But you can't say that, for example, she's been star baker. And someone who hasn't been star baker is being told they push all the time. And someone who's has been star baker is told they don't push.
Let's take Nostalgia Week, for example, right? Her showstopper in Nostalgia Week looked fucking amazing.
Yep.
It was that trifle inside the...
It was genius.
And Ella's collapsed and were macarons on a cone. But she doesn't get told that she needs to push.
Yeah, it's like they just went not your finest effort and moved on. I would love to have seen them if you'd managed to stick them to the cone. As opposed to, that's not really, you need to push for in a showstopper.
That's not a good comparison. Hoda's is a good comparison. Hoda's was literally sponge cake done as a Lamington with some cherry ripe balls.
Yep. And cherry ripe filling in the middle.
That's right.
And it was, and again, that was, it's amazing the flavours. It wasn't pushing. It's a cake that exists with a different filling.
Yeah. It's confusing. I'm really, and it makes me like, as a woman, right, you get to a certain age and you know it's coming. Like, there's a whole fucking Tina Fey friggin' thing about it. Is like, it's her, Amy Schumer and a few others together at this picnic, and they're celebrating a woman's last day of being fuckable, and it's when she's 39, right? And it's this whole... It's in society where there's an age where women become invisible. And one, it's great because you can fuck with people, and because they underestimate you. But two, in positions like this, there's certain bias that comes across, and that's what I'm seeing on screen, and it's really disconcerting because I see it time and time again in Bakeoff shows where, you know, if you're the nonna, you're experienced and you do these amazing bakes, but you're kind of expected to then move aside for younger people. And don't get me wrong, there's some young bakers who are fucking amazing. Like, you know, there's something I'm trying to say is that there's different playing fields almost. Like, people are being judged on different criterias. And I really feel that's what's happening for Carmel, because, you know, every time when anyone speaks about Hoda, they're like, oh, she wakes up looking gorgeous and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, when I was 21, I could fucking wake up after partying all night and put myself together to get to work. Like,
it undersells both of them.
Yeah, and like, Hoda should be able to just look like she's, you know, wandered out of a bog, dressed in like the skins and bloody like things that she's sacrificed to old gods, and not be, you know, anywhere near gorgeous and be judged on her bakes. And Carmel should be able to go in looking like a glamorous person.
And same thing.
You're like you know, not that you look like that. Carmel, I'm not saying Carmel's looking like she's walked out of a bog, killing things.
Yes.
But you know what I mean? Like, that should not come into it. But there is a bias, and I think, as I said,
it undercuts Carmel, I think, in particular here.
Yeah.
But it also undercuts Hoda because when she does something that is, and again, we talked about it. You know, the other week I thought that she had a week where she wasn't particularly brilliant. I thought last week
She was great.
she was absolutely brilliant. But I think it undercuts it because if you keep selling her as brilliant when she's solid,
Yeah.
and then you go, but then she does something brilliant, you've got nowhere to go.
No.
And it's the same thing, like if you're underselling what Carmel does and you're overselling what Hoda does, you don't get a fair representation of either of them.
No,
So you'll get people reacting to Hoda based off, you know, the glamour and stuff like that, and ignoring the amazing growth she is showing as a baker, but also, you know, where she does need to still build and improve on technique.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Carmel. You're ignoring the really good stuff she's done all the way through.
Yeah.
And focusing on this idea of, but you're not challenging limits. This doesn't necessarily have to be about challenging limits.
Is it flavor profiles? Is it because like she's gone like to tiramisu and flavors she's familiar with? I don't understand. I'm confused.
The push thing, yeah. We'll talk about it a bit more because there's a couple of things that pop up in the showstopper that I want to talk about. So, now we go to it's the religios a la sun, and I've mispronounced every word of that. I don't care. It's the bake that's shaped like a nun, folks. It's making choux pastry in a nun shape.
I'm really concerned why there's so many religious named bakes in France.
What else do they have to do?
Saint Honore.
Yeah, Saint Honore, yeah.
There's lots of saint stuff. We've seen it before. We've seen the little nun one. Like, you remember it was like a choux pastry one on bloody what's it?
Canadian,
There's lots of religious bakes.
Well, look, when the Three Musketeers weren't around, there was no D'Artagnan. I mean, what are you going to do? Anyway, so
was that to stop people from being like killed? Like, you know, it's a Protestant baker. They're like, no. See,
Catholic.
I'm so Catholic.
Look, I'm so Catholic. I've made choux pastry.
Nun.
I've made a nun out of choux pastry, and that wasn't apparently a religious idol, which should have got them killed. Anyway, think dry, think strong. Channel your engineer. 5 hours to do this.
Okay, cool.
Now, I loved Aaron. He goes, you know, making 30 eclairs, easy. Making 30 eclairs in the shape of a religious figure, not as easy. A little bit harder.
Look, you know, a nun, that might be challenging. You want a real challenge? Make it like a fucking Indian god. How many arms would you have to have sticking out? Like, this is just not a nun that's like a cone shape, because they, you know, like in their habit and like what are the nun dresses called?
Habit.
Is that the habit?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the wimple on top. No, the wimple's the white bit. The veil, okay? So it's not a habit and veil, okay? And wimple. Like, you've got arms, you've got, like, if you're doing Kali, you've got, like, the skulls of her vanquished enemies underneath. Like, there's
a lot to do.
There is.
So Maggie wants boldness and wants height in this as well. That's what she so Hoda. Now she's doing mango and Thai basil cremo with candied ginger.
Yum.
Right. Good flavours. Decent profile.
Yeah.
Norman boasts that he used to make choux every fortnight, and I'm like,
Ooh.
oh, don't boast about that.
Well, here's this, Norman. I wear shoes every day. It's because you can cobble together your shoe.
We cut back to Aaron, who's back on his French. And he's talking about making a marbled nun. And I like my nuns marbled. Chocolate and vanilla with a hazelnut praline inside. On top, sorry. Ella is now embarking on the final audition. She makes what she calls Ella's mummy. So
it's not a nun, though.
It also wasn't an Egyptian mummy, so neither of them seemed to work. It wasn't a nun. Now I'm going to quickly just describe what this is. So it's her daughter's painting, and it's her, and it's her hair sort of out, and it's brightly coloured. Yeah. It's choux and chocolate short crust pastry, piped with Baileys. So it's a bit of the after dark.
Yeah. I'd be her mum too.
I do want to ask the question: is it deliberately not a nun?
Look,
was that a deliberate decision based on personal preference? And we'll just sort of leave that there, because I'd like to sort of ask that question.
We'll ask Ella.
I think it's an interesting question. Yeah. Was that a deliberate decision.
And that's fair enough.
But we cut to Carmel, who's making a 3-tier tower nun. It's her description. Her description. Now, raspberry cream and vanilla buttercream and flowers. Now, Maggie turned around to her and said, so this isn't a nun that's not austere. It's bright and it's colourful, apparently. And I'm like, you just walked away from Ella's bench where it's a rainbow.
And it's got a nun.
And it's got a face on it, and it's got hair that sticks out.
Yeah.
And you've gone, this nun's not very austere. You've just come from Ella's bench.
Yeah, but you have to understand, Maggie, in the 60s, nuns got funky. I watched Brides of Christ. I saw those habits turn into, pencil skirts. You can't tell me that nuns are austere when they're getting groovy with God.
Sister Janet Mead.
Getting jazzy with Jesus.
Our Father who art in heaven. Sorry, anyway. So we then cut to Mel, who turns around to Hayden and goes, where are you up to, Hayden? And he's making his lavender pastry cream. He's doing a lavender cream, almond praline, and he's making a crackling biscuit for on top. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't think this looked like a nun either. This was a Dalek. And
at first, I was getting excited because I'm like, oh my God, he's doing Jenga.
Yeah.
I just wanted Jenga nun.
Well, it didn't start as Jenga nun, but it definitely finished as Jenga nun. Now, when they cut back, we got the most honest feedback we've ever received in Bakeoff history. Mel goes, are you going to make it today? Hayden stopped, looked at it, and just went, I don't think so. And he was brutally honest.
Just,
And Mel's just like, that's the most honest answer anyone's ever given me.
He's admitted defeat. He's like, I can't win.
So Nerman's hat came off, and this again felt like more of an omen. Now, he was making Indonesian sablé. With passion fruit and kaffir lime. So the flavour profile sounded really good. And then out comes the penis. I mean the eclairs. It was look. They were of varying sizes and shapes. Nerman said they're quite a bit bigger than I expected them to be. And Ella,
that's always a pleasant surprise, though.
And Ella was tapping on one and going, ooh. It's quite rigid, this one. And I'm like, oh, come on, guys. This is ridiculous.
That's also something you want in your
penis.
I mean, eclairs.
Rigidity.
I mean, at the right moment.
Now,
there are inopportune
There are inopportune moments. Like, again, watching a Sister Janet Mead concert. Anyway, so...
I hope you're not speaking
Our Father who art in hell. So, Jaywin. So, Jaywin looks and goes, if this fails... I just need Claire to go over there and stand on a pedestal. Because it's a Claire tower.
Oh.
Pause. Aaron paused, looks at him and goes, you're pretty happy with that one, aren't you?
Wouldn't you be? That's brilliant.
So, Carmel is then using cones made out of foam to support the structure. So she's not using sugar. You were supposed to... They wanted you to use sugar to build the structure. Yep. Carmel's using cones. Look, she's also cutting her eclairs open to pipe for speed, and she admits they'll call her on it. Mm-hmm. They kind of had to, Carmel. You do have to kind of pipe the eclair.
I don't have a problem with using the foam because, like I said before, with Ella's macarons, she chose to serve them. I mean, was it specified that it had to be structurally integral?
It's supposed to stand on its own.
Okay.
But the other thing is too, Ella saw this.
Yeah.
And they don't make mention of it, but go back and watch it if you can. Ella used the pots that she was using to do the stabilising for the thing. She left hers inside as well.
What?
When they pull the eclairs off, the pot is still in the middle, supporting her eclairs. And they did not make mention that she had extra stability going. Yeah, when they pull the eclair off, you can see quite clearly the pot is... She goes, Carmel's onto a really good idea there, and then she left the pots. And when they pull the eclairs off, the pots are still there. Again, I don't have a problem with it.
No.
But...
If you're going to judge Carmel on that...
If you call one, you call both.
And that's the thing, is like, they both used cream. I mean, I'm in agreement with Matt and Maggie that if you're going to do a choux pastry, you can't have too much cream because it goes soggy.
And that was the problem for Carmel. It was... just creamed everywhere. It's what happens when you got that many eclairs.
Like when you're 16 and excited.
So...
Finally go out on a date.
Jaywin continues his puns.
Ooh,
when they go, what are you going to call this? And he goes, bless you.
That was the greatest.
Thai basil and kaffir lime. What's a kaffir lime? The kaffir lime lobby was out in force.
Yeah.
Now, with the iced coffee creme pat. Now, Jaywin also, at this point, had said that he'd been a monk as well. And
That was amazing.
it's really cool.
And in Sydney, so I want to know what temple he was at, 'cause there's some really cool ones. There's one down in Redfern that's right next to the what's it called? The horses
Yep.
there. There's one over in Glebe you probably don't know about. I don't know if they have monks there though, but it's a beautiful temple. And yeah, there's heaps dotted around Sydney.
Exactly. Not to mention, of course, Nyan Tien.
Oh yeah, down in Wollongong.
Yes.
Nice place.
So,
Good vegetarian dishes there too.
and he also describes himself as a monk as a mini Matt Moran. No vests, though, apparently. So, Ella asked Aaron if he was filling the top. Aaron goes, yes. And she goes, won't it be too heavy? And Aaron goes, no. And Ella goes, well, if it's good enough for Aaron, man, it's good enough for me. And just starts filling it. So I like that this seemed to be how she was deciding if she was going to fill her shoe or not. So if that's how she sort of decided. It's like, okay, that's what's happening. Hayden's piping bag was jammed because he had too much. It wasn't like the cream. He had like bits in there.
I think he said it was coffee seeds. Or
Yeah,
grounds.
but like Jaywin's like, well, why don't you sieve it out? And you go, well, I can put another bag, but it'll just jam up the bag. And Jaywin's like, well, why don't you sieve out the bits that are blocking the bag then, Hayden?
Because I think what Hayden wasn't able to express to everyone is that this is like the 20th time he's done it, and he's just been going, like he and Cronus are just head to head. And this is the final straw. He's like, I can't outdo this.
No.
Cronus has won.
Aaron announces that he's used glucose to make the chocolate shine. As Mel added, also low fat.
It is. It's just high in sugar.
It's just high in sugar, but you know it's low in fat. Now we start the assembly process. So Nerman was short of eclairs, but he decided he was going to be, in his words, punk about it.
Yeah, he should have left the hole in it, called it a holy
Well,
nun.
he left the side in it, but he left the gap, but he just went, I'm going to be punk.
Yeah. It's a holy nun.
But you know what he should have done?
What?
Should have borrowed some of Hayden's. Hayden made enough eclairs to last 5 years. Like, I will maintain Hayden could have had 8 more weeks to assemble this challenge, and he would not have got it done because there were too many eclairs. They cut to him, and he's surrounded. The bench, they're everywhere. I'm like,
This is
Hayden
because...
did 30. 30! His counting was all that. The first challenge he was too short. The second challenge he was 1 over. The third challenge, what the fuck was that?
This is just evidence of the battle that's been
Cronus?
raging, like with Kronos. You know, like these eclairs have obviously multiplied over the number of battles he's had. Can't win, Chris. He can't win.
So they then cut to Carmel, who offered Hayden some help. And she goes, Hayden, you can use this as glue. And in one of my favourite Hayden moments of the entire series, he just goes, glue is the least of my worries. He's literally, at this point, he is playing a Claire Jenga.
Yes. He's just like, nah.
So Nerman looks at his and suddenly goes, Peppa Pig! Because he suddenly realised that what he's decorated isn't a nun. He's made Peppa Pig.
Look.
Not your finest work at all.
No. Not quite a religious symbol. I mean, it's worshipped by a lot of preschoolers, but it's not good.
It was his attempt to crash the play
not
school
enough.
audition.
Yeah.
He just wanted in.
He's like, see? He's going to compete.
So let's go to the judging. So as Claire said, as your showstoppers are as fragile as Mel and my egos, we're judging them at your benches. So Hoda. The tall nun was very well constructed. The shoe was firm. Good mango. Matt wanted the caramel a little bit darker. Again, go back to earlier on where Nerman's like, I'm burning this because they like burnt things. They said that we love to see that you have pushed yourself. I didn't like that because it felt like a shot. I thought that line was just unnecessarily mean. And it was weird. So we'll come back to that anyway, because we'll get there in a minute. Nerman, they said there was no structure really. The flavours were great, but the look was terrible. Yeah. But they said that everything else was great. The flavours were good, and they said it's hard to see a nun in there. We'll come to Ella's in a minute, and we'll talk about that. But Maggie did say, you delight me with your flavours, Nerman. And I mean, look, that's all you ever need to hear. Now, Carmel. They liked the berry, but they felt that it was lacking toffee. Now, again, I do agree you should probably put sugar and toffee on there, but it wasn't officially a requirement. They did say that it was more soggy because of the cream, and then they once again commented on the internal supports, and you need to push.
But then Matt went on to mansplain Carmel about piping the stuff in there, and
Carmel said straight up, I'm saving time, they're going to call me on it, but I just need to get this done.
And it just fell off.
Yeah. He did explain how to pipe, and she's like, I know how to pipe, I just did it fast. Ella, they said the chocolate biscuit was good, it tasted really good, but it was far too soft. They didn't comment on the structure. They didn't comment on the fact that it did not look like a nun in any way, shape, or form. Yeah,
but you know what? I reckon it's because she's a massive What We Do in the Shadows fan. And she just went with Narges, no nuns, none. And if you haven't watched the What We Do in the Shadows TV shows,
no nuns, none.
Big sign, yeah.
So Jaywin. Jaywin's looked like it was about to fall over, and Jaywin goes, no, it's meditating. Well played.
Lean into it.
Extra eclairs was for stability. I love that too. He's like, it was going to fall down, so I put extra eclairs in the middle, and Maggie was like, no, but that just shows you've actually understood the structure.
Yes, because Matt said engineering, and you need to put in braces.
Exactly.
And supports and struts.
The coffee flavour, they said, was strong, which balanced the sweetness.
I watch Homes on Homes.
Indeed you do. Creme pat was good. The shoe was good, but again, they commented on no caramel from Jaywin. Hayden. Maggie called it a contemplative nun. And Hayden turned around and went, well, that's a nice way of putting it. Hayden was his most brutal critic in this one.
Look, it was one of those relics. You know when you see the nun that's become a saint?
Yes.
And, its relics are displayed with great care, but they still look like a pile of shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, religious people.
No.
No, but, they just look like, you go past an antique shop.
Yes,
and
exactly. I get exactly what you mean, and yes, you're right. They liked elements of it, but they didn't think it was anything close to what they were after. Aaron, they were impressed with his structure. The shoe was excellent. Good praline flavour. Well done all round.
Yeah.
So
I'll take your praline.
Now at the table, they did again go back to the whole Carmel needs to push thing. And look, her showstopper wasn't good.
No.
It was not good. But Hayden was the clear choice this week. As Matt even said in the judging, look, I feel like Hayden has an issue every week. And Matt said that in the judging. And they said, he was Star Baker. And Matt went, yes, he was Star Baker. But outside of that, he's had issues every week.
Yeah.
So it's probably time that Hayden went.
Yep, and Carmel just had a bad week,
Carmel had a bad week, and, she is going to have to, lift it for next week. 100%. You can't do the same thing 2 weeks in a row.
No.
But that was the right call. Star Baker, they started talking, again, Hoda up as the idea of Star Baker, but there really was, again, much like last week, only one option.
Yeah.
Aaron.
Absolutely.
And, again, he if only for his French work. But I love the fact they didn't make him jump again.
Oh, I think they learnt a lesson. I think he also learnt a lesson.
No.
They're like, look, there's rose bushes over there. Why don't you have a jump over? He's like, nah.
Yeah, never run through clover.
At least running through and jumping in the clovers, that's a soft landing. Whoopsies. Yeah.
So, obviously, as I said, weather's been a bit of a pain, obviously, around for everybody. That's slowed us down a little bit. We have coming out, the Nav interview is definitely coming out. It was coming out yesterday, but unfortunately, we were a little bit
flooded.
wet, and I was a little bit vacuuming out water from a room.
Quick dry vacs are amazing.
Yeah, quick dry. We'll never live without a quick dry vac. Hopefully,
wet dry vac.
Yes, hopefully everybody's.
It's a Ryobi.
It is. Hopefully, if you want to sponsor us, Ryobi. Hopefully, everyone's keeping themselves as safe as they can with all the weather going on. So that will be out, and also not long after that, the chat with Ash will be up. We had a conversation with Ash again. It was raining. It was pouring down.
The old man was snoring.
The old man was definitely snoring. But so we've got those two chats coming out, and who knows who we might be talking to in the very near future. Hayden. Anyway, until next time.
Yes.
I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we will catch you all later.
8 Mile.